It's a big whirlwind of emotions. There's a lot of tantrums. There's a lot of, I don't feel like eating this. It's not that they are necessarily so picky that they don't like a flavor, but it's like all these feelings. And because we have allowed our children to be in touch with their feelings and being themselves and feeling their feelings out loud, creates a messy dinner in my house.
I think I know you better. Oh, if I knew your recipe. How much love do you put in the bowl when you cook from the soul, trying to feed your family? And do you have hand-me-down treasures from grandma's handwritten letters? You know, the ones with the measurements. And do you have a lot of fun and laugh while you're prepping it? What'd you have for dinner last night? For your daughters and your dinner last night.
Welcome back. It's Emma and Dimity, your twin co-hosts of Dinner Last Night, a podcast about how people around the world feed their families and how this daily act connects us all. Today we're sitting down with Katrin Bjork, who is a food photographer, author of the beautiful cookbook From the North, and creator of the blog Modern Wifestyle. She was born and raised in North Iceland and studied photography in Copenhagen before earning her fine art photography degree from the International Center of Photography in New York City. Today, Katrin lives in Kingston, New York, raising her 3 adopted children with her Danish husband Jens in a trilingual household. And she told us going into this episode that dinner in her house is a complete disaster. Yeah, Katrin really candidly described how she copes with 3 children who have very different special needs, including ARFID, which is an eating disorder that we learned about, and autism. And this is a great episode to pair with episode 6 with Dr. Roni Duncan, who is a psychologist and mother, and shared about her dinner table strategies with 2 ADHD family members. As someone who has built her creative life around the beauty and intention of the table, Katrin has worked hard to reframe how and when her family connects, and it turns out it's not at the dinner table. Nope. We also discuss what it means to evolve as a person, how none of us are the people that we were in our 20s, and how we've really had to adjust when confronted with unexpected challenges that have popped up in motherhood. We cannot wait for you to listen to this episode. Welcome, Katrin. We are so excited to have you on today. You are someone I have admired for so long as a human and food photographer, and now mother of 3, and we're really excited to chat.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we're both dying to know, what did you have for dinner last night?
Last night was our weekly buffet of leftovers, which is one of the best dinner nights we have in our family because it usually means minimal meltdowns and everybody can find something they like on the table, because dinner in my house is not easy. It's very complicated often for various reasons. So these nights are sort of a breeze. So last night there was some pasta, there were a few meatballs, there was half a hamburger, there was some chickpea salad, there was, there's just everything. It's sort of where we empty out all the leftovers, and you are also allowed, if you can't find anything, you can have whatever you want, Cheerios, whatever. Everything goes on leftover night.
Is that a weekly, like every Wednesday's leftover night? I love that.
It's usually Wednesdays or Thursdays where we really just empty out and then we start on a fresh.
Yeah, I love framing. I love framing that as a buffet. Yeah, me too. It makes it sound, I don't know, like fancy. But I love leftovers. We grew up on leftovers too, and we always eat leftovers. And I know some people who don't, like, cannot stand the idea of eating leftovers, and it blows my mind.
It's bizarre to me. I grew up eating leftovers too, and also I can't stand food waste. So I will go into lengths in reusing items in my fridge for things.
So we had another guest who made a ton of beans and they were kind of overcooked, and she saved them, and then actually Julia Turshen, do you know her?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yes. And then she used them for a delicious soup, like a butternut squash soup. So we both appreciate no food waste as well. Okay, so when we first invited you to come on the podcast, we had a little email exchange and you were like, dinner is a complete disaster in our house right now. I don't know if I'm the best person to come on. So I'd love to hear more about what that disaster looks like. I know many parents can probably relate to that feeling that it's not perfect. And as someone who beautifully photographs food like you do and develops recipes, I can imagine there's like a big tension there for you as well.
I've had to process dinner in my therapy sessions because I grew up in North Iceland. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s and in North Iceland, there were no takeout options. There were no boxed anything. So everything was made from scratch, which I understand now as an adult. That's such a privilege and a luxury to have had that experience of wholesome foods prepared from scratch all day, every day. I didn't as a kid. All I wanted was to have pizza, and we didn't. So even though my childhood certainly wasn't perfect, but there was dinner every night, and we were all at the dinner table every night, and everybody ate what was served. I've also learned to understand that's not necessarily a good thing, that we all ate what we didn't like or we had feelings about, whatever. But I had this romantic idea that I would grow up and have kids, and we would have these magical dinners together. Not that my childhood dinners were necessarily magical, and then in my world of working with food and photographing food, I put all these expectations on myself that these were the moments where we were supposed to connect. And I was certainly going to raise the children that would slurp oysters and just be these perfect eaters. And then reality kicks in, and my children do not slurp any oysters ever. They would rather die. And our magical moments as a family where we connect are not dinner. They are more in nature and on bike rides. And I've also had to learn that that's okay. Like, we don't have to be the family that connects over dinner. I mean, we do sometimes, but most of the time it is a disaster. And it's a disaster because I have one child with an eating disorder. I have 3 children that all have trauma, and 2 out of 3 of them have their trauma linked to food. And I have one child that is autistic and struggles severely with eating and sitting still and just being in a moment. So it's a big whirlwind of emotions. There's a lot of tantrums. There's a lot of, I don't feel like eating this. It's not that they are necessarily so picky that they don't like a flavor, but it's like all these feelings. And because we have allowed our children to be in touch with their feelings and being themselves and feeling their feelings out loud, creates a messy dinner in my house.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. You said one of your children has an eating disorder, and you were telling me a little bit about it when we saw each other a few weeks ago. Can you share more about what that looks like and how you manage it?
Yeah, it took some time. So it's my middle child. She's 8 now. She experienced hunger in her early childhood where her needs were not met. So she has since developed ARFID, which is avoided restrictive food intake disorder, which to the public and people that don't know her or her story looks like she's a picky eater. But people with ARFID have both an emotional and physical reaction to food, to the thought of food. It can be textural, it can be the flavor, or it can simply just be the look of it, or some abstract that to us don't make sense ideas, how it's going to feel inside them when they eat the food. So it's very complex disorder to have. So she has a safe list of items that she will eat. She's in therapy for this, and she's getting all the help she needs. And we work with her on, trying new things. But it's quite devastating to watch her try something new because it's so hard, and there's a lot of tears, and there's internal turmoil and a lot of meltdowns. But she's very smart, and she understands her disorder, and she wants to fix it. So she's really trying, and it's really, really hard. So her safe list is extremely limited. It does change from time to time, but as of right now, she eats no staples that sort of most parents would give quote unquote picky eaters. She does not eat pasta. She does not eat any potatoes. She does not eat rice. She does not eat beans. She does not eat cheese. So, like, she eats a lot of fruit, but only certain fruits, and they have to be cut in a certain way. She eats one type of yogurt and one type of granola. And, like, you can try and trick her, it's not going to work. So it's highly complex. And to have a person with an eating disorder at your dinner table, and then you have an autistic little brother across the table who admires her and adores her and looks at her and wants to do everything like her, it's obviously creating this terrible eating habits for everyone around.
That is really complicated. I didn't even think about the influence that it has at that age on siblings. And just to clarify for the listeners, so all three of your children are adopted and two of them have the same biological mother. So
correct.
So when we're saying that Scarlett experienced hunger, that wasn't under your care. And correct. You're now working to help restore their sense of well-being and security. And I hear that's a lot of heavy lifting to do. And also how amazing that she gets to have your guidance and support and the resources to work through this.
It certainly has been a journey for us too. Like we had to learn, because it was in the beginning, she also just looked like a picky eater to us. And we didn't know what ARFID was. And there were so many unknowns in her story, but also for us on like how to help her. And so it wasn't until there was a family therapist that said to me, because I was putting all this pressure on dinner time, and she said, you know what? It's okay if there's Cheerios on the table at dinner time sometimes. And I looked at her and I was like, what are you talking about? I work in food. I'm a food photographer. I'm a great cook. They should be able, and I put all this pressure. And it was in that moment where I was like, I'm really making this dinner situation toxic for everyone involved. And so we are all learning it together on like how to approach food, how we talk about food in our family. And I still have these moments where I'm like, just eat it. Just eat it. It's fine. You're going to be fine. But, I have to control myself, my own expectations of what I want family moments to look like and be like, and take into consideration 3 people that have really complicated, traumatic early childhood.
I feel like there's this part of our generation of mothers that battles with, that's what Dimity is going to say, that battles with, just eat it, like just do what I say. And actually that's how children were raised. Like if your children were in our generation, right, they wouldn't have had a choice. And you said, because we've allowed our children to feel, I think there's this tension that we experience as mothers where we want to respect our kids' feelings and their needs. And sometimes we wonder, have we gone too far with that? Because now and it's hard to know where the line is.
Yeah, it is. And I really mean it. Like we've had to be in a lot of therapy, both as parents and then as a family and then as individuals. Like everyone is in therapy in my house because we're a complicated family. And for me, it's been a lot of what you just said of letting go of the way of how I was raised. Like there was no choice. The choice was either you eat what's in front of you or you eat nothing at all. And I don't think that's very healthy. But I really have to work hard on remembering that when I'm at my dinner table and there's 2 people crying and there's, and one is, not eating, whatever it is, I really have to remind myself, like, it's okay. Like they are safe. They are getting the nutrition they need. It might not be in the perfect form or how I would want it, but I really hope that this will result in them growing into non-picky adults. Like, that's my goal.
Yeah, I mean, like even just adults who have this self-awareness, right? Like that's what I think for us growing up in a different time, like I don't feel like I even knew there were tools to learn how to cope with things until my late 20s, early 30s, at which point I was already a mother. So it's such a gift. It's hard work, but it is such a gift to give the kids the tools right now, even if they fight it. Like, you know, my kids, I'm trying not to, I'm trying to say they're particular about their eating habits, but, you know, we give them the tools now, and then hopefully they have them as adults and aren't struggling as adults in the ways that maybe we've had to as we learn these things later. Hi, friends. Quick pause to say thank you so much for listening. It's really nice to know we're not just sitting here talking to ourselves. Though, to be fair, we'd probably be doing that anyways. Definitely. Season 2 is our love letter to the Hudson Valley, and we're thrilled to be sharing our guests' extraordinary stories and wisdom with you. Did you know that for each episode, we're also offering an exclusive giveaway that includes a gift from one of our guests or a copy of one of our own cookbooks? You don't want to miss these. And it's so easy to enter the giveaway. All you need to do is head to bit.ly DLN giveaway. That's DLN giveaway, all lowercase, and enter your email. The link's also in the show notes. All right, back to the episode.
And I mean, I'm certainly also have to fight this perfect family image that's put forward by the media and social media in particular, because my family doesn't look like that. I mean, Christmas Eve, which is a big dinner in our household, we had 2 out of 3 kids sitting with noise canceling headphones just so that we could have a moment at the table for a little while. Everybody ate something teeny tiny bit. One person did eat granola, and that's okay. Like it's okay. It's fine. We did not have joyful conversation because of noise canceling headphones, you know, and they didn't particularly enjoy the traditional family dinner that I made, but that's also okay. But it took me a long time to learn that that's okay.
Yeah, I think it's so hard to deprogram ourselves. And it sounds like all of us were raised in cultures where food and dinner was really important. Our mom, who's half Italian, made everything from scratch. We always sat down for the family meal. Yeah, that makes complete sense. And I do think that a big lesson for parents today is it's okay. Like, it does not have to be perfect. I just published an article called Coffee Creamers for Dinner because when we were traveling, we arrived somewhere after all the restaurants had closed and literally had a mealy apple, the like remnants of a bag of trail mix, a clementine, and coffee creamers from the tea station. And
I love
my
that.
youngest, like, hard protest, even though at home she would be thrilled about that. But the point was, our kids are going to be fine. Like, there's, you know, especially when we have the resources, I think we put a lot of pressure on nourishing our kids properly. And yeah, Cheerios for dinner is okay. And it's like their overall balance, not every meal that you're hinging their growth on.
That's right. That's right. We're actually going away this summer, and we'll be traveling for 7 weeks. We've had extensive talks to the kids about food, about traveling, how that's going to look like. We're visiting a lot of family. We're going to be staying in different people, you know, at different houses, all of that. And we've talked a lot about how we have to be flexible. That's going to be really, really hard. But what I've also learned as a parent is it's not enough for me just to have that conversation with my kids. I also have to have that conversation with the people that we're visiting. to ask them, please don't pressure the kids, especially my child with eating disorder, to eat if they don't feel like it. Please offer them, but also respect if they say no, thank you. But that's a really hard conversation to have also, to sort of educate your extended family about eating habits, because there's a lot of judgment in that from the other side, projected to the kids, which I struggle with a lot. I find that very difficult.
It's so hard. I think it's one of the hardest things. There's this really funny woman on Instagram, the Daily Tay, I think. Have you seen her videos? She does one with her mom where she's teaching her mom about gentle parenting. It just made me think.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I've seen that. It's so funny.
So funny. But it is, I mean, Emma and I struggle with this, right? I think all the grandparents have this expectation for our children, whether it's about how they're eating, or for me with boys who are both tweens now, they don't want to just chat with their grandparents, and the grandparents take it really personally. And it's like almost a judgment on us, right? Like, your kids have no manners. They're not conversational. And I recently just shared an article with them, like, here's what tweens are like. Here's how you can connect with them. Like, it's not their job to perform for you or please you by eating what you offer them, right? Like, I feel like for the three of us who we said before we started recording, we're all rule followers. There's this people-pleasing tendency, and we're raising our kids differently to acknowledge what they like and what they don't like and how to respond when things are put in front of them. So I think it's hard because it's like we're educating our parents' generation about how things are changing while also supporting our kids and ourselves. It's a lot. I love that you're doing that. I feel like it's a perfect segue to talk about just the different cultures in your household, because you grew up in Iceland, your husband Jens grew up in Denmark, and you have this beautiful mix of cultures. So tell us more about your summer trip and where you're going, and then also just how you bring the different cultures into dinner and into other aspects of family life as well.
Yeah, it's funny. So this summer will mark our 10th year in the States. It's a long time. And I can sort of feel us becoming more and more Americanized. And a lot of that is through the kids, because, they go to school and all their friends, and sort of they have these asks and requests of how we do things and what we do. And they get embarrassed when we speak Icelandic and Danish, to them outside of the house. And there's all of that. So our house it's a big mix of cultures. We speak 3 languages. We're all trilingual. So it's all crisscross, all mixed together. It's a hot mess, but really fun. And, I am also learning as a parent that it's, just like I can serve Cheerios for dinner sometimes, I can also utilize services. There's a great options here in the Hudson Valley to buy ready-made food that I can heat up. Black Eyed Susie's in Kingston is a great option. So is Common Table, which is, they have their meal service.
Oh my God, my kids play soccer right next to Common Table 2 nights a week, and I had no idea.
It is magnificent. The food is incredible. It's so good. It tastes just like it's homemade, and it saves me so much time, which is valuable. And it's quite amazing to be able to go on a website. It's not cheap, but when you line it up in the time that I spend figuring out what's for dinner and grocery shopping and then preparing all the food and then all the fights around the food, it's worth it to be able to. Sometimes we don't do it every week. We don't do it all the time, but for stressful weeks, it's incredibly helpful. So I will say that is a piece of American culture that I'm really enjoying, that just allowing myself also sometimes to buy something that's ready. I don't have to make everything from scratch. I can totally buy pesto in a can or in a jar, it's okay. Like I don't have to always make it from scratch, and it's fine. Everyone will be okay. Like that's one piece of American culture that I'm really excited about. But I also hear myself say out loud all the time to my children, "Oh, that's just Americans." And they will be there like, "We're Americans." Where I was like, "Right, okay, I'm not." One of those things is, for example, wear pajamas outside. Scandinavians do not wear pajamas outside of their bed. We get dressed before going downstairs. So, there's definitely those type of things. But this summer we're going to spend a month in Denmark where Jens's family lives. They live in the countryside. It's magical by the beach. There's the tiny country village. It's going to be really, really sweet to hang out with family and sort of tap into and give the kids a taste of their dad's childhood and upbringing, and where it's sort of to help the kids make sense of who their parents are, because we are constantly referring to our childhood or what we eat or what we did as kids, and they're not there. They don't live there. They don't get to see that every day. So we really wanted to bring them home just to give them a little taste of that, because though they're not born there, it's a part of their culture now. It might not be their biological culture, but it's by our family, it has become their culture. So we're really excited to bring them home. And since we were going to spend a month in Denmark, we were like, well, then we should hit the beaches in the south. So we're going to go to Portugal. And then we were like, well, since we're already in Portugal, we should go see our friends in Paris. And then since we're in Paris, we're going to go see our friends in London. And then we're going to go check on my mom in Iceland before coming back home, before school starts.
It's kind of like the backwards version of what Emma just did. I feel like. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like I hear you about prepared food in the US being something that you can lean on, but I actually think it's rare to have prepared food that's good. Like often prepared food is not reliably made with good ingredients. And one of the things I experienced from traveling just now, and granted, most of the time we were in Italy, was leaning on prepared foods. Like I would happily buy a jar of pesto or, chicken cutlets, things that had been pre-made so that I was sort of half making dinner. And I think that's going to be a beautiful part of your travels as well, with being able to cater to the kids' different needs and
also eating out, right? Like the cost of eating out I don't know, I think in Iceland it is more expensive, right? Like that's one of the things that are pricey there. But in Italy, you can't get a lot of vegetables when you go out in Italy, but the cost of going out and having a good meal is a fraction of the cost here. So that balances it out too. I feel like you don't always have to be so reliant on cooking and figuring out what's for dinner.
Emma here with another quick dance break. Okay. Anyway, if you're enjoying season 2, we'd love to stay in touch through our Substack newsletter. You can subscribe at the link in the show notes, easy peasy, or head to dinnerlastnightpod.com and subscribe to our newsletter from there. When you subscribe, you'll get one of my free monthly meal plans for stress-free, delicious dinners that your whole family will love. And trust me, I know, and so does Dim, because we've tested all these recipes on our kids. Let's head back to the episode now.
I feel like we jumped right in, and I want to backtrack a little bit and just start from the beginning, like growing up in Iceland. What was that like? You talked a little bit about family dinners and eating around the table, but I also know from your book that it was pretty normal to have like fresh caught fish and lamb that I think your uncle hunted, right? So I'd love to hear more. Was it your uncle?
No, so it was my grandparents. So most people in Iceland, either you're from a fisherman's family or a farmer family. And I'm from both. Like my mom came from a farming family and my dad came from a fisherman family. And then my dad was a hunter. So everything was the lamb came from the farm. And, Icelandic lamb is wild. So it's incredible. If you've never had Icelandic lamb, please do yourself a favor and taste it because it's incredible. And then a lot of fish. I mean, I grew up eating fish at least 3 times a week. It wasn't always fancy. I mean, sometimes it was boiled and sometimes it was fermented and then boiled, which is a lot. But fish 3 times a week, usually lamb once a week, and then a lot of leftovers.
Was there a dish that your mom or your dad made that is like the dish that stands out in your memory?
Yeah, my grandma made, it's called kjötsúpa, which just translates to meat soup, which is lamb meat soup. It was so salty and so fatty and just so full of everything. It took her the whole day to make it, and her whole house, like you could walk into her house and you'd be like, yes, she's making it. And, it became the dish where she would call me and she was like, I'm making soup. So I would make, even as a teenager and young adult, to stop by her house for soup. That's definitely my favorite, and something that my oldest son, Prince, is really fond of too, which I very much enjoy that we can eat that together. But, but a lot of fish. Like now when I visit my mom, she makes me fish like every time. And it's simple. It's, pan fried in butter. It's glorious. It's so good. It's so clean. And it's served with, cooked potatoes. That's it.
Yeah, I feel like they're the staples, right? In every culture, like butter, salt, garlic, olive oil. As long as you have those staples, it's delicious. So your book that you wrote from the North it's an ode to Icelandic and Danish food, right?
Yeah.
Mostly Icelandic. It's such a beautiful book. And I remember the first time I opened it thinking, I don't know where to get some of these ingredients because they're so native and common to where you grew up. Are there ingredients that you miss the most that are hard to find here?
Today's world, you can order most things online. And actually, a lot of Icelandic ingredients you can order from Alaska, which is really great. So I've done that a lot. You can order like frozen currants from Alaska. You can, and there's like different things you can order. So that has really made it easy for me. But I will admit, like I don't cook a lot of Icelandic food in my home because of previously mentioned dinner dramas.
Right.
So we're really good about visiting my family in Iceland. We go a few times a year. And so I tend to just max out when I'm home of my mom's cooking because sure, I can buy lamb here and cook it, but it's not Icelandic lamb and it just doesn't taste the same. I'm a total lamb and fish snob, like to the absolute max. Like I have a really hard time buying fish here in the States. Like unless I'm like at the Cape in July, like yes, and I'm right there. It's, but I'm a serious snob.
What's your go-to fish, like place to buy fish locally? Is there anywhere? No. Okay.
It makes sense, honestly. I mean,
know.
If you're from a fishing culture, eating fresh seafood.
I mean, there is a new spot. I'm curious. We won't
Yeah, I know about the new spot, and it's the new spot is the best option for sure, but it's also very expensive,
so overpriced.
So to feed a family of 5, like that's the very expensive meal.
Yeah, Kai and I made sushi, like mostly me. He helped me roll one. That was his contribution.
It counts.
We were like, let's make sushi together. Yeah. But we bought, I think, just like one thing of tuna and it was $35 and it was delicious. There was even leftovers because we only put a little bit in the sushi and I made myself a poke bowl the next day. But yeah, for a big family, I mean, it's a treat.
It is a treat.
I'm curious what it felt like for you when Iceland became the new must-go-to place for people in the U.S. and especially from this region of the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, I'm proud of us to have made it onto the map. I feel also defensive because, because what people don't realize is that we are a tiny island, in the North Atlantic. Iceland, this all happens because Iceland goes bankrupt, and so our currency falls through. And so we became sort of affordable for the rest of the world to visit. And we weren't ready. We couldn't accommodate planefuls of people arriving. And about 15 years ago, there were like tourists pooping in people's yards in Reykjavik because there weren't enough public restrooms. And, so it wasn't great, but we're catching up. And the tourist industry in Iceland is pretty good. It's actually kind of funny to go. And if you leave Reykjavik or wherever you go, like I can't remember where I went, but I went somewhere and I'm obviously speaking Icelandic and the person is like, sorry, I don't speak Icelandic. And I'm like, what? Like I was just like ordering a hot dog or whatever, which by the way, Icelandic hot dogs are really good. So if you're ever going to have a hot dog in your life, make it an Icelandic one because they're delicious.
What makes them so, you need to sell me on this because I actually don't like hot dogs. So what makes them, I know.
I have some in my freezer. I'll have you over.
Ooh, okay.
So the sausage itself is made of mixed meats, but it has lamb. So there's lamb meat in the hot dog and they're smoked. So they're really, really, really flavorful. Our buns are really soft brioche type of buns. And our toppings are both raw and fried onions. The fried onions are the key here. Our mustard is very sweet. And then the ketchup. And then we have like a relish remoulade type of sauce also. So it's really sort of, it's a hefty bite.
Okay, I'm sold. I want that now.
I was sold on smoked. That sounds really good.
And lamb.
Yeah.
Sounds delicious.
Yes.
So what took you, so you grew up in Iceland and then you went to Denmark where you met Jens, your husband. Take us through that trajectory and then to the Hudson Valley where you are now.
So I leave Iceland, I traveled the world, and then I came back to my tiny town in North Iceland. And I was like, I can't live here. So I moved to Denmark without ever having been there. I applied for school, got into a photography and film program, and moved to Copenhagen. My plan was always to return to Iceland. That was always the plan. But then I met Jens, and then I got a job, and then I sort of stuck around. And a little later, I decided to take a master's degree in photography, and I moved to New York by myself, left Jens behind with the promise I would be back, which I did. So I came to New York and I did ICP, and then I went back to Denmark, and I wasn't done with New York. I mean, I was young, I was in my 20s. So I had this like weird homesickness for New York City when I was back in Copenhagen. I mean, Copenhagen is wonderful. So we made an agreement, Jens and I, that someday we would return. And then, we get married and we are going to start a family, and we learn that we can't have biological children, and we start the adoption process, which in Europe is very, 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 very long. It took us 5 years to adopt our oldest son. So we were in South Africa. He's South African. We were becoming his parents, and we're sitting there, and it was Christmas, but it's summer, and it was all sorts of magical and all the emotions. And Jens, who at the time was running an advertising agency, looked at me and he was like, I think I'm ready to sell the company. Do you still want to go to New York? Which in hindsight, where I was like, that wasn't a good moment to we just became parents to up our lives and move. But we did. We came home from South Africa. We put our apartment in Copenhagen for sale, and it sold. It was listed on a Friday. It was sold on Sunday, and we moved. And we were like, okay, we're going to New York, because New York was literally the only connection because I had gone to school. But we didn't want to go to the city because we both grew up in small towns, and we were like, we can't raise children in a city. Like, that's crazy. The only place that I had visited outside of New York City was Beacon, because I had gone to the art museum, to the Dia Beacon. So we found a house on Facebook and we rented it, and we moved with a child, which is in hindsight like
a baby.
So irresponsible.
Was he a baby?
He was 2. He was 2 years old, but he was a baby to us, and he moved a lot. In hindsight, probably not the best for him, but here we are. So we moved to Beacon, and we were in Beacon for a little while, where we rented that house that we found on Facebook while we sort of browsed the Hudson Valley to figure out, do we want to be here? Do we want to live here? And that's how we ended up in Kingston.
Such an amazing journey. It's so funny where life takes us. Do you ever envision yourself going back to Iceland?
I do. It's not now. I see myself as like after my kids are grown, when I'm old lady, that's going to be my move. I have a hard time envisioning myself leaving this house, which, our kids' childhood home, and going to any sort of retirement situation in the United States. Like that's bonkers. That's when I leave and go home.
Yeah. One of the things that we've talked about is, well, I guess we're, Emma and I are first generation American. So we've talked, you and I, about sending our kids to college in Europe. And you are like, that's what's happening. Your kids don't even know that there's an option to be here. And Emma and I are always, Emma just did this amazing trip through Europe, and I'm always thinking about where else can I move. But with kids who are at the ages that all of our kids are, who have these, this stage really deep social relationships and attachment to a place, it feels really hard to uproot. So I think about that as well, like retirement, but college. Like, would you go to Europe when your kids go to college there? If they go to college?
Yeah. If they all go, 100%. Yeah. And it's funny because our kids, as you know, in Europe, college isn't as a big of a deal. First of all, college is free. So we go to college, we drop out, we take something else. A lot of people don't finish. Like a lot of people don't go to college. Like it's not, this academic pressure isn't as big in Europe as it is, or in Scandinavia as it is here. So our kids, like in our house, there is no talk about college or college fund or saving up for college, or we don't talk about it because we didn't, like, culturally, we don't do that. It doesn't make sense to us. But the kids will come home because either they hear it from a show they watched or they hear it from school. And like my son, who's in 6th grade, is already in this like career class, and they're talking about the future, where I'm like, dude, I just hope you're going to be a good person. Like, well, you're going to figure this out. It's going to be okay. So yes.
He's going to be dancing with the New York City Ballet, Principal
100%.
Nutcracker. I feel like that's going to be Prince.
Yeah. So, and I've told him, I was like, listen, you might not know what you want to do when you're 18, when you graduate high school. There is no law that says that you have to go to college right after high school. You can explore the world. You could get a job. There is multiple ways of living life. There's not just this one way of doing things, which I feel there's a lot of pressure on our kids in elementary school. There are all these testing and there are all these things and there's all this comparison, they're all comparing each other. It's a lot, and it's a lot for them. And it's provoking anxiety for children that should just be allowed to be kids. And I don't see the need to be 12 years old in 6th grade and stressing out about your grades or stressing out about college, because who knows? Because most people that I know from America that went from high school to college, they've changed careers in their mid-30s because they did not make the right decisions when they were 18 years old because they didn't know themselves.
Before we go, I know, don't cry, it's sad, but we'll be back. We just want to say thank you for tuning in to Dinner Last Night with us.
Season 2 is really close to our hearts, and we are so honored to share the thought-provoking, heartwarming, inspiring, and refreshing conversations we've had with some serious superstars from the Hudson Valley region of New York.
And if this episode made you think of someone, a friend, a parent, a neighbor, anybody who popped into mind, the guy at the post office, the cashier, we'd love it if you'd take a moment to share it with them.
You can send it.
All right, Tim's losing it. You can send it in a text, a DM, or however you share things you love. Like you can just tell the cash register person when you're buying your groceries. Thank you so much for helping our small but mighty Dinner Last Night community grow. We love you.
We're so grateful. We love you.
My mom was literally on the phone with me this morning saying, well, I've started a campaign to convince all the grandparents that they need to tell their children not to influence their kids to go to college because it's just a waste of money. Honestly, if you think about it, do you think that it did anything for you? And I was like, well, I mean, I think it did some things for me. It's not like I'm a total dad. But
I mean, I think the point of college, it's because, this is where this is the space I work in. So I think about this a lot, and I so appreciate what you're saying, Katrin. And this is what I tell, when I work with teachers and students. And actually, this goes back to the self-awareness thing, right? It's not necessarily about what you want to be when you grow up. It's about knowing who you are and learning to be a good person in the world and giving back, like making the world a better place, but also knowing how to pivot when you want to pivot, right? Like you might start doing something and then completely switch. I was a teacher for 5 years and then I decided I didn't want to do that. I'm still in education, but there are different, like, life is not linear. It's not this model that we grew up with where you go to college and then you get a job and you stay in that job for 50 years and then you retire. That's just not our reality anymore. So I love that. Not if you
want to be happy.
Exactly.
Right.
And, there's the outliers that I feel like have always known. Like we have some friends who always knew they wanted to be a doctor and they pursued that and they love it. But for most people, that is not the case. I feel like for me and maybe for you, Emma, we didn't specialize in things. I didn't even study education. I studied political science. But for me, the experience was more about personal development and like living on my own. But I got the most out of the experiences that I had that weren't necessarily connected to my college classes. It was studying abroad and traveling or volunteering with Emma for 4 months in Central and South America, like spending 2 summers in Kenya, interning. Like those were the formative experiences that I think you can have even without college,
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't go to college. I'm just saying it doesn't have to be right after high school, and it's okay if it's never. We can all do great things without it. We can also do great things with it. I think it sort of taps also into this. We can also have a healthy family and healthy bonding with messy dinners, because people, everybody wants to say like, oh, we have this incredible moment every night and we sit around the table and we have dinner because we're so perfect. And we also go straight into college after high school. We do so great. We can be happy without. Like we can also have these connections on bike rides, and we can learn to be good people while we travel. Like, you know what I mean?
100%. I mean, that's actually more real than the perfect image that we're fed. Most people's dinners are not. I mean, we have a hammock hanging from the ceiling at the end of our dinner table that one kid is on. It's like one of those circus swings.
Yes, we have 2. In my house.
Our dinner is circus swings and usually some kind of card game that gets spilled on. And I mean, I wanted to just touch on for our listeners the idea of a safe list, because I think that that's a beautiful tool for a lot of kids. Our daughter has a list of things she likes. She's very particular. There's possibly still trying to figure out if there's something else that makes her special. And it's really helped us identify what can we make sure is on the table so that she will eat. And I've never called it a safe list, but I refer to it often. So that's just a beautiful thing that you shared.
It's really helpful. And in our house, she gets to write the things down. And, if there's something she tastes, like the other day she came home, she told me there was a classmate who had a sandwich that looked really good. And she wanted to recreate that sandwich because that was appealing thought to her to eat that sandwich. So, we go to the store, we buy everything in for the sandwich, and she hated it. So, but then she's able to put turkey sandwich on her non-safe list. Like she knows because she's actually tested it. She's involved in the shopping. She's involved in choosing, okay, what type of bread? Do you want us to bake a bread? Do you want us to go there? Like what are you envisioning? What's helping you? And then she knew like, okay, I don't like this type of turkey sandwich that my classmate had. And so that goes on to the unsafe list. And then she has her safe list where she can, and for her, things evolve. For a long time, there was pasta on her safe list, and now it's off. It moved to the unsafe list. And so it's also important that the lists are good, but they have to also be open to change, because otherwise there's a lot of pressure on following a list for everyone involved.
Yes. And this idea of change, someone just asked Emma and I for quotes about motherhood. And I was like, oh my God, like, how do you distill motherhood into a quote? But the thing that came to me was that the only constant is change with our children, right? Whether it's how they sleep or how they eat or what they're into, but also for us, like we are evolving as humans. And one of the things that we had talked about before we started recording was your blog, which was Modern Wifestyle. Did I get it right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. And you were saying it feels a little outdated now because your idea of homemaking and being a wife and what that all means has evolved a little bit. Would you be willing to share a little bit more about the evolution of the blog and your relationship to it?
Yeah. So I started that blog in the winter. So after I went to New York to do my master's in photography and I moved back to Copenhagen, that was a really rough transition for me. I wasn't done with New York. I didn't want to leave, but I had made this promise to go back. And so I come back with this new ideas in my head of what I was going to do with my life. And it wasn't really working out. I didn't really have the right connections in Copenhagen. I didn't really know the right people. And so I was cooking a lot. And I was cooking and I was throwing parties and even helped like cater parties for friends and like doing all these things. And then it was actually Jens, my husband, who said, he was like, why don't you combine your photography and your cooking? Like that should be able to mix somehow. And it's funny, I had never thought about that because I studied fine art. I was going to, be this artist. I was going to do shows in galleries. So that's where the blog started. And I really enjoyed it. But that was a very different time in my life. I didn't have children and I had all this time and it was really easy to write. I was developing recipes. I was very much enjoying it. And the recipes on the blog, they're legit. They're good. It's good food. But my messaging of like how easy that was to make everything from scratch and how everyone should be doing that, it just doesn't ring true to me anymore. I mean, sure, do I bake my kids' birthday cakes from scratch? Absolutely. Do I make the waffles from scratch? Yes, sure, I do. But you don't have to, and you don't have to always do it. And it isn't easy because it is time consuming and it's not the right thing for everyone. And I think, as we were talking about earlier, like being a parent and living with this constant change, you have to be flexible in how you navigate life and cooking and dinners and so forth. So yes, the blog is still on there online and it opened a lot of doors for me. I mean, that blog opened the world into editorial photography within food, which I did for many years, which later developed into commercial food. And which I'm still doing and make my living out of. So it was a huge gateway for me. That blog also gave me my book deal and the ability to publish my book. So I can't hate on it too much because it gave me a lot. And I put a lot of hours and a lot of energy into that blog back in the day. I mean, I haven't posted on it in many, many, many years, but the messaging of creating a perfect, beautiful life, I'm sort of eating that again. I'm humbled by my early adulthood experiences and learning to just say, like, that doesn't ring true to me anymore.
I can also identify with that. And I think it's okay because we change, like Dimity just said. And I think that I'm noticing as I talk to a lot of mothers who have children around the same ages that all of our kids are, is that there's this new phase, like when they're really little and not all of their quirks and particularities have emerged and they don't have as much will. We are able to still retain some of those ideals that we had, but there's a combination of not wanting to fight against someone's will, not caring as much, honestly, like realizing they're going to be okay if I don't pour myself into absolutely everything that I make and do for them. And I think that's a beautiful progression to hear. And Like I can completely identify with that in my earlier work in food as well.
It's humbling. It's humbling to understand that you as a person have evolved. There was nothing wrong with the person that wrote that blog, but I'm not her anymore. And I'm fairly sure that being a mom and raising 3 children with special needs has made me a way better person. Just in general, my view of an understanding of life and people is better. So I think with all the chaos and all my messy dinners have also, it's been a really, really humbling experience.
I think also when you're able to admit that and notice how that transforms you, that's just a really powerful thing, because a lot of people hold on to and defend an earlier version of themselves. And there's a cost to that, both to themselves and others.
The other thing I like to say about motherhood is it is the ultimate personal development course that you didn't actively sign up for. I mean, we did, but we didn't know that we were, right?
We really didn't know. I mean, it's funny, like before I became a mom, all my friends who were moms, they were like, oh, you don't even know. And I would be like, yeah, I do. Like, I'm watching you do it. Like, I thought I knew everything. I knew absolutely nothing. Like, nothing. There's no book. There's nothing that can prepare you for the journey of ever-changing motherhood. It's such a wild ride. You know what? I met a family the other day that also has 3 kids. They're all younger than mine. And they looked at me and they were like, well, we are in the middle of it. At least you're out of it. And I was like, no,
There's
man.
no such thing.
There's no such thing. I was like, bigger kids, bigger issues. Like, that's
totally
a fact.
Yes. I mean, Emma and I are one of 4, and our mom still does so much for us. Like, she will bend. In fact, a couple weeks ago, she spent like the whole week painting. This is such a funny story. I don't know if Sebastian will appreciate us telling it, but she painted these 2 giant paintings for my brother's apartment because he needed to have some paintings on his wall for this party he was throwing. So it's like,
and she didn't
hang them.
She drove into the city, loaded them into the back of the car. Yeah, she's like the most in-demand mom.
That's amazing. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty great. This has been so wonderful. It has been such a fun conversation, and I so appreciate you being so open about sharing all the different aspects of your life and being real about how messy dinner is. That is literally our tagline, like the messy, the beautiful, what is it, Emma? The beautiful messiness of dinner or something, because it is beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you both for having me.
Yes, been such a pleasure. And also, Katrin is an amazing, amazing photographer. So if anybody in the Hudson Valley needs family photos, what else do? You do headshots?
In New York City area.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do, like, food was the sole thing that I did for a very long time. And then it sort of it transformed into food and lifestyle. Lifestyle being a very, very, very big area that includes all sorts of things. And, times are changing. And so to keep up with time, I've sort of let go of being so restrictive of what type of work I'm doing. So I'm here for, headshots, the right families for family photos. I do not do weddings. It's been really, really fun. This past year, I worked with a lot of local restaurants, which has been really, really fun to do, taking their pictures for whatever they need, their website, their socials, whatever. And it's been true joy to be able to work in my own local community. It's been really special.
We're surrounded by so many amazing restaurants and people here. This whole season is about the Hudson Valley. So
that's right.
You're one of those amazing people here. So thanks for saying yes to this.
Before you go, I just wanted to say one more time, thank you so much for listening to Dinner Last Night. Feeding our families isn't always easy, but dinner is almost always a story worth sharing and a meal that connects us all. Dinner Last Night is co-produced by us, Emma Frisch and Dimity Palmer-Smith, your twin hosts behind the show. And the episodes in season 2 are edited by Stuart Hetzler. The theme song we can't stop dancing to is written by Emerson Longstory Bartlett, featuring Drew Martin on saxophone. And yes, that's a chorus of our kids you hear singing along. To get all the juicy extra bits that accompany each episode, like recipes and giveaways, you can subscribe to our newsletter at dinnerlastnightpod.com. And every episode includes a special giveaway, which you can enter through the link in the show notes or by heading to bit.ly/DLN giveaway. That's DLN giveaway, all in lowercase. You can also follow us on Instagram at dinnerlastnightpod for guest highlights, micro street interviews where we buck up and ask strangers what they had for dinner last night, dinner time inspiration, and cheesy twin moments. From our table to yours, thank you so much for being part of this journey, and thank you for listening.
What you have for dinner last night? For your daughters and your sons versus where you come from. What you have for dinner last night? How many meals can you make in your mind? What you have for dinner last night? You got some tips for saving some time? What you have for dinner last night? Dinner last night. I think I know you better if I know your recipe. Think we're in this together, 'cause we all gotta eat. Yeah, we all gotta eat.